The story opens in the tranquil star system of Sarath, home to the Sarathians, a highly advanced but peaceful alien race known throughout their region for their knowledge of science, culture, and diplomacy. Their crystalline cities glimmer beneath serene skies on their lush homeworld, a paradise of vibrant flora and harmonious society. The Sarathians have long thrived by relying on technology designed for preservation, research, and defense, not warfare. Their civilization was built on cooperation and understanding, making them vulnerable when conflict comes knocking. Suddenly, this peace shatters. A ruthless and expansionist galactic empire known as the Zarvok Dominion descends upon the Sarath system with overwhelming force. The Zarvok are infamous for their brutal conquests and insatiable hunger for resources and control. Their fleet is massive, their weapons devastating, and their tactics designed to crush any resistance without mercy. The Sarathians' defenses, built to deter aggression but never tested in actual war, quickly prove insufficient against the Dominion's relentless assault. As the Zarvok fleets bombard Sarath's orbit, their ground forces begin landing, wreaking havoc on the cities below. The Sarathian leaders convene an emergency council inside their capital's underground sanctuary. They realize they cannot withstand this assault alone. Their technology and numbers are dwarfed by the Dominion's might. With heavy hearts, they decide to send out a desperate call for help to any who might hear it. Using their most powerful and far-reaching communication arrays, the Sarathians broadcast a distress signal, a coded message detailing their plight, their location, and a plea for immediate aid. This signal, imbued with complex encryption and repeated through multiple frequencies, is sent out into the depths of space, reaching far beyond their star system, into the dark reaches where few dare to tread. The message spreads like a beacon of hope and desperation. Many civilizations intercept the call, but few respond. Some fear entanglement with the Zarvok Dominion, others distrust the Sarathians, and a handful simply ignore it. But somewhere deep in the uncharted territories, the signal reaches a feared and legendary group, the Deathworlders. The Deathworlders come from a savage planet, known simply as Deathworld, a brutal environment of extreme conditions, deadly predators, and harsh survival challenges. The inhabitants of this world have evolved to become some of the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. Unlike the Sarathians, they do not seek peace or diplomacy. They are hardened, battle-scarred, and merciless, known for their overwhelming combat prowess and their fleet of terrifying warships. But why would these death-hardened warriors heed the call of a peaceful civilization? The story hints at a deeper reason, something tied to the Deathworlders' own code and history. Though they appear as merciless killers, they have a purpose that transcends simple conquest. The distress call awakens something ancient and fierce within them, a fury and resolve to confront the spreading darkness represented by the Zarvok Dominion. As the Sarathians' hope begins to wane, the distant stars flicker with the approach of the Deathworlders' fleet, a fleet not of mercy but of wrath and unrelenting fury. The stage is set for an epic clash where peace and savagery collide, and where the fate of the Sarathian people hangs in the balance. Far from the serene world of the Sarathians lies the harsh and unforgiving planet, known only as Deathworld. This brutal world is marked by savage landscapes, jagged mountains scorched by relentless storms, toxic swamps teeming with lethal predators, and endless wastelands where only the strongest survive. The Deathworlders themselves are a species forged by this merciless environment. Their bodies are resilient and battle-hardened, their minds sharp and unyielding. Living in a constant struggle for survival, they have developed a warrior culture unlike any other in the galaxy, where strength, strategy, and ferocity define their very existence. The Deathworlders are infamous across star systems, not just for their homeworld savage reputation, but for their fearsome fleet of warships. These vessels are unlike any other, sleek, deadly, and equipped with weaponry designed to obliterate enemies swiftly and decisively. The fleet moves like a predator stalking its prey, silent but lethal. When the Deathworlders intercept the Sarathians' distress call, their response is swift and deliberate. They do not send a polite envoy or a diplomatic envoy. Instead, preparations begin immediately to mobilize the full might of their fleet. The warships awaken from their dry docks, engines roar to life, and battle crews sharpen weapons and tune systems. The Deathworlders are not known for mercy, and they do not fight for peace. They fight for survival and dominance, driven by an ancient code that compels them to eradicate threats before those threats grow too powerful. Yet, there is more to their decision than mere brutality. The Deathworlders perceive the Zarvok Dominion's assault as not just a threat to the Cerathians, but a danger to the fragile balance of power in the galaxy. The Zarvok's appetite for conquest is insatiable, and if left unchecked, their expansion could reach the Deathworld itself and many other systems. Helping the Cerathians is both a strategic move and a test of their own warrior creed. Intervene decisively, or watch their world fall next. As the fleet departs Deathworld's orbit, the soldiers, clad in battle armor forged from the rare and resilient minerals of their planet, prepare for combat. Their commanding officers issue terse orders, reminding crews that this is no mercy mission. It is a hunt for vengeance and dominance. The ships slice through space like razor-sharp blades, closing the distance to the Cerathian system with deadly precision. Meanwhile, back on the Cerathian homeworld, the arrival of the Deathworlders' fleet sends shockwaves through the population. To many Cerathians, these warriors represent the opposite of their peaceful ideals. Monsters from a nightmare. Planet, there is fear and uncertainty. Could these merciless warriors be their salvation, or would they bring destruction of a different kind? But time is short. As the Zarvok Dominion's forces tighten their grip, the Deathworlders' fleet appears on the edge of Sarath's system, like a storm of wrath. Their warships cut through enemy lines with terrifying efficiency, demonstrating tactics honed by centuries of combat on their brutal homeworld. The battle begins, and the quiet serenity of the Cerathian skies is replaced by thunderous explosions and blazing fire. The Deathworlders fight not for honor or glory, but because they must. Their arrival is the galaxy's answer to an ancient call, a fury unleashed to stop the spreading shadow of the Zarvok Dominion. The fate of the Cerathians, the Deathworlders, and the entire system now hangs in a violent balance, setting the stage for an epic clash of wills and weapons. The vastness of space surrounding the Cerathian homeworld transforms into a battlefield as the Deathworlders' fleet clashes head-on with the Zarvok Dominion's forces. The stage is set for an epic confrontation, a brutal contest between two extremes: the savage, unyielding fury of the Deathworlders and the ruthless, calculated might of the Zarvok. The battle begins with a thunderous exchange of energy blasts and missile volleys. Zarvok warships, heavily armored and equipped with devastating long-range weaponry, unleash a barrage aimed at obliterating the Deathworlders before they can come close. But the Deathworlders have anticipated this. Their fleet maneuvers with surprising agility, using guerrilla-style hit-and-run tactics perfected through centuries of survival on their brutal homeworld. They dart in and out of enemy fire, striking key targets with precise, lethal force. Each Deathworlder warship is a fortress of destruction, bristling with plasma cannons, ion disruptors, and devastating boarding pods. Their commanders are battle-hardened veterans who command with ruthless efficiency. They coordinate their attacks with savage precision, focusing fire on the Zarvok's flagship vessels and supply lines, hoping to cripple the enemy's command and logistics early in the fight. Meanwhile, the Zarvok respond by unleashing their secret weapon, a monstrous capital ship armed with an experimental superweapon capable of firing destructive energy pulses that can tear through entire fleets. The Zarvok flagship leads a relentless assault on the Deathworlders, forcing the invading warriors to adapt quickly or risk annihilation. Despite the overwhelming odds, the Deathworlders press their attack with unrelenting fury. Their pilots are fearless, diving through heavy fire to disable enemy weapon systems and communications arrays. Boarding teams, clad in armor designed for brutal close-quarters combat, launch surprise attacks on Zarvok vessels, sowing chaos and panic aboard the enemy ships. On the Cerathian homeworld below, the destruction wrought by the Zarvok ground forces is immense. The planet's once pristine cities now burn, but the Cerathians take courage from the ferocity of their new allies in the sky. Inspired by the Deathworlders' unyielding assault, They rally their defenses and begin to organize guerrilla resistance movements against the invaders. As the battle intensifies, the Deathworlders suffer heavy casualties. Their vessels, though powerful, are not invincible. Several are destroyed by the Zarvok's superweapon, and many crews fall in battle. The fleet commander realizes that the war may not be won by brute force alone. They need to find a way to neutralize the Zarvok's superweapon quickly, before the tide turns irrevocably against them. Amidst the chaos, the story reveals moments of individual heroism and sacrifice. Deathworlder pilots risk their lives to shield vulnerable Sarathian transports. Boarding teams fight desperately to disable key Zarvok systems. Each clash is brutal and unrelenting, a deadly dance where every move could mean survival or death. The climax of Part 3 approaches as the Zarvok prepare to fire their superweapon again, threatening to annihilate the entire Deathworlder fleet and crush any hope of rescue for the Sarathians. The Deathworlders brace themselves for what could be a final, devastating blow. The tension is palpable. The survival of the Sarathian civilization now hinges on the Deathworlders' ability to overcome not just the overwhelming enemy fleet, but the devastating superweapon that could end the battle in an instant. As the brutal space battle rages around the Sarathian system, a momentary lull allows the story to dive deeper into the enigmatic origins of the Deathworlders, the galaxy's most feared and misunderstood warriors. This part unveils the hidden truth behind their savage reputation, revealing that beneath the layers of ferocity and brutality lies a culture shaped by survival, honor, and a solemn purpose. The narrative shifts to a flashback aboard one of the Deathworlders' massive flagship vessels. Here, the commanding officer, Commander Varric, reflects on their past while coordinating the fleet's next moves. He contemplates the harsh world they come from, the infamous Deathworld, a planet hostile beyond imagination. Extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, and relentless predators have forged a people whose very biology and psyche are uniquely adapted for endurance and war. Every Deathworlder is a product of this crucible, physically tougher, mentally sharper, and more ruthless than nearly any other species. The flashback delves into the ancient history of Deathworld. Long ago, the planet was a place where only the most brutal survived. Societies rose and fell in cycles of violent conflict. Over millennia, Deathworlders evolved not just to survive but to dominate this savage environment. Their physiology became stronger, denser muscle tissue, enhanced senses, rapid healing. Their minds grew disciplined and strategic, honing instincts that made them unparalleled warriors. Yet this evolution was not purely for personal survival. A profound cultural code developed among the Deathworlders, one that views the galaxy as a fragile balance constantly threatened by chaos and destruction. The Deathworlders see themselves as guardians, a harsh but necessary force to prevent galactic anarchy. Their willingness to unleash overwhelming fury is tempered by a belief that such power must be wielded to protect the weak and punish those who would spread tyranny, like the Zarvok Dominion. Returning to the present, the story reveals that this purpose drives their intervention in the Sarathian crisis. The Deathworlders' arrival is not random nor solely motivated by conquest. They recognize the Zarvok Dominion as a malignant force spreading corruption and devastation throughout the galaxy, and the Sarathians as victims worthy of defense. Inside the flagship's war room, Commander Varric and his officers study intelligence gathered on the Zarvok superweapon, a terrifying device capable of mass destruction. They understand that defeating the Dominion will require more than raw strength. It will demand cunning, sacrifice, and exploiting the enemy's vulnerabilities. The Deathworlders prepare specialized squads trained in sabotage and infiltration, experts in close-quarters combat designed to disable key components of the Zarvok war machine. Their strategy combines brutal assault with surgical strikes aimed at the heart of the enemy's power. Yet even as they plot their next move, there is a growing awareness among the Deathworlders' leadership that the conflict will change them. Their fury, so long a source of strength, may bring unforeseen consequences, especially if the enemy's superweapon falls into the wrong hands or if their own fleet suffers irreversible losses. This chapter deepens the complexity of the Deathworlders, portraying them not merely as merciless killers but as warriors bound by history, purpose, and honor. It raises questions about the cost of survival and the sacrifices required to defend an entire civilization. As the fleet prepares for a decisive strike against the Zarvok superweapon, the stage is set for a pivotal confrontation, one that will test the Deathworlders' resolve, skill, and the very limits of their legendary fury. The battle for the Cerathian system reaches a critical juncture as the Deathworlders launch a bold and risky operation aimed at turning the tide against the seemingly invincible Zarvok Dominion. After suffering heavy losses in previous clashes and witnessing the destructive power of the Zarvok superweapon, the Deathworlders know that brute force alone will not win this war. It's time to strike deeper, to hit the enemy where it hurts most. Commander Varric, the fearless leader of the Deathworlder fleet, devises a daring plan. While the main fleet engages the Zarvok forces in a fierce space battle to draw their attention and resources, elite Deathworlder strike teams will infiltrate the Dominion's massive capital ship, the very vessel housing the devastating superweapon. These squads are made up of the most skilled and hardened Deathworlders, trained in sabotage, close-quarters combat, and guerrilla tactics honed on their brutal homeworld. As the space battle rages on, the strike teams launch their assault. Using advanced cloaking technology and swift, stealthy boarding pods, they breach the outer defenses of the Zarvok flagship. Inside, the atmosphere is tense and hostile. Tight corridors filled with armed Zarvok guards, labyrinthine engineering bays, and the omnipresent hum of the superweapon's energy core. The Deathworlder squads move like shadows, striking swiftly and efficiently. Their combat style is savage and relentless, close quarters fighting with energy blades, heavy weapons, and tactical precision. They plant explosives on critical systems, disable communication arrays, and sabotage the mechanisms powering the superweapon. Meanwhile, outside the capital ship, the Deathworlder fleet is locked in a brutal dance with the Zarvok forces. Plasma blasts light up the void. Massive warships explode in fireballs and starfighters engage in deadly dogfights. The Cerathian defense forces, emboldened by their allies, mount guerrilla resistance on the planet's surface, pushing back Zarvok ground troops and protecting key infrastructure. Back aboard the Zarvok flagship, tension escalates as alarms blare and systems start failing. The Zarvok commanders realize they are under attack from within, but the intruders are elusive, hitting vital systems one after another. The superweapon's power begins to falter, its energy core unstable and dangerously volatile. In the midst of this chaos, Commander Varric confronts the Zarvok flagship's warlord in a climactic battle within the ship's command center. The two warriors clash with brutal intensity, embodying the broader conflict between their species, the Deathworlder's raw fury and resilience versus the Zarvok's cold, calculating cruelty. The fight is fierce and personal, but Varric's unyielding determination and strategic mind give him the edge. As the superweapon nears meltdown, the Deathworlders activate the explosives planted throughout the ship, triggering a chain reaction. The Zarvok flagship shudders and begins to break apart. Varric orders a retreat, and the strike teams race back to their pods just as the massive vessel explodes in a spectacular cascade of fire and debris. This decisive blow breaks the Zarvok's hold on the battle. Their fleet, disorganized and leaderless, begins to retreat. The Deathworlders press the advantage, driving the enemy forces back and reclaiming the orbit above Serath. On the surface, Cerathian resistance fighters rally, pushing Zarvok invaders into a full-scale retreat. With the Zarvok Dominion's threat diminished, a new hope rises. The Cerathians begin rebuilding, inspired by the Deathworlders' ferocity and sacrifice. Yet the story hints that the war has changed all involved, Deathworlders, Cerathians, and Zarvok alike, and the galaxy may never be the same. With the item destruction of the Zarvok flagship and their devastating superweapon, the tide of battle decisively turns in favor of the Deathworlders and their Cerathian allies. The remaining Zarvok forces, demoralized and leaderless, hastily retreat from the Cerathian system. For the first time in many months, peace seems possible. But victory comes at a steep cost, and the aftermath reveals both hope and uncertainty for the galaxy's future. The Cerathians emerge from the shadow of destruction to assess the damage. Their cities lie in ruins, ecosystems have been ravaged, and countless lives lost. Yet the indomitable spirit of their people shines through. Inspired by the Deathworlders' fierce intervention, they begin to rebuild with renewed determination. This marks a new era for the Cerathian civilization, one forged not only in the fires of war but strengthened by alliances once unimaginable. The Deathworlders, too, face the heavy burden of victory. Their fleet, though victorious, is diminished. Many of their finest warriors and ships were lost in the brutal conflict. Commander Varric, now hailed as a hero among his people, contemplates the cost of their intervention. The battle has tested their ancient code, revealing cracks in their beliefs about mercy and justice. The Deathworlders realize that wielding such overwhelming power requires not only strength but wisdom and restraint. Amid the celebrations and rebuilding, uneasy questions arise. The Zarvok Dominion, though broken in this battle, remains a looming threat elsewhere in the galaxy. Their ambitions have not been fully extinguished, and rumors whisper of hidden forces regrouping in distant sectors. The Deathworlders understand that their role as guardians is far from over. Moreover, the alliance forged between the Cerathians and Deathworlders sets a precedent for future cooperation among disparate species. Old prejudices and fears begin to thaw, replaced by cautious respect and shared purpose. The Cerathians learn to embrace the Deathworlders' harsh but honest approach to survival, while the Deathworlders gain a deeper appreciation for the Cerathians' resilience and hope. The story closes on a bittersweet note. The galaxy has witnessed the awakening of a fearsome power, the Deathworlders, who arrived not as saviors cloaked in diplomacy, but as warriors wielding fury. Their intervention stopped the Zarvok threat to Serath, but it also shifted the cosmic balance. Other species watch closely, some with hope, others with fear. Commander Varric gazes toward the stars, knowing that the war for the galaxy's future is far from over. The Deathworlders will remain vigilant, their fleet a symbol of relentless strength and a warning to those who would threaten peace and freedom. Yet there is a quiet acknowledgement that this is only the beginning of a longer, more complex struggle. In the final moments, the camera pans over the reborn Cerathian cities, the rebuilt fleet preparing for patrols, and distant star systems where new conflicts simmer. The story ends with a powerful message. In a universe filled with danger and darkness, sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected and fiercest of allies.